Hey everybody, Hexlex here. Real quick, just before we start today's video, I wanted to point out to everyone that we are now launching our YouTube membership program. So if you look below where the subscribe button is, you'll see a join button next to it. That should be both on the video itself and on my channel page. So feel free to click that join button if you're interested in more info. I've also got linked in the description my announcement video, which goes into much more detail about what that's all about. So just real quick, wanted to once again just point out to those who have not seen that yet, though that is now an option. Anyway, thanks for listening. Now on to today's video. Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here. Got another Master Duel video for you. So I'm finally coming back to Infernoble Knights. This one took me a bit to come back to. Mostly, I'll be totally honest with you, because I was a little intimidated by the idea of having to learn new combo lines for Infernoble Knights, particularly ones that involve the Battle Unboxer King Dempsey. But that's not the only new tool that we have here for Infernoble Knights. As of the past couple of sets here, we also got the Phoenix Gearblade, rather quietly released in not the last selection pack, but I believe the one before actually, as a normal rarity card. This might not seem like much on the surface, but the Phoenix Gearblade actually does end up being quite important to the Infernoble Knight strategy. Basically, if you take the first combo guide I posted, a lot of the time you'll hear me say, like, okay, we're gonna set up this bamboo sword package, but when Gearblade comes out, you can just send that instead, which I think is definitely very good, because now instead of having to run like 3 or 4 broken bamboo cards and play even more cards we don't want to draw at all in our deck, now we can just play one Phoenix Gearblade. It'll come back right to our hand as soon as it is sent by the Isolde, which means that we don't have to, again, we don't have to mess with a clunky engine of Garnets. We just have the one Gearblade and we're good to go there. I will say, even though, again, I kind of put off this video because I was intimidated by potentially learning new combo lines, the lines that involve Gearblade and Dempsey are really not very different at all from the lines from, well, before those cards came out, right? In fact, I will even show you the combo line before we do any replays, just to show you more than anything else how similarly Infernoble Knights plays now as to the way that it did before. For the main deck, the biggest change here, I think, and I actually don't know, hopefully I'm not making a big mistake by doing this, but I've actually taken out Infernoble Arms Joyous, because the kind of combo line where we use the Noble Knight Exceed monster, I'm trying to remember exactly what the name is. Yeah, this one, Artorias, the King of Noble Knights, right? In previous combo lines, we would Exceed summon this and then equip Durandal and Joyous. Durandal would add the, where is it, the Ricardetto, and then we would use the Joyous after that to, we would use it to special summon, yeah, we would special summon the Ricardetto from hand once this was sent to the graveyard. However, with the King Dempsey combo line, we're instead using Living Fossil. So, even though in the past I've played both Living Fossil and Joyous, for this build, I decided to just take out the Joyous for Living Fossil. When I did my research on the deck beforehand, I did see that there were, I think it was like roughly 20% of builds were not playing Joyous at all, so I don't think it's required, but I'm sure there are situations where it is useful. Honestly, if it turns out that I made a big mistake by taking this card out, I would just probably slot it in as a 46 card. I'm very comfortable going well over 40 cards in the Infernoble Knight deck because we have so many cards we don't want to draw, namely literally every single one of our equip spells, right? We don't want to open any of these ideally. Well, Durandal is actually not bad to open, that's why we also have 2, because it can sometimes help us get our play started, but on top of that, there's also stuff like Aqua Dolphin. Honestly, pretty much all the Infernoble Knight 1-ofs you don't want to open because you can just grab them from the deck later, which is, again, the main reason why in a deck like this I am very comfortable going well above 40 cards, even up to 45, 46. All right, let's see. What else has changed? I pulled a Royal Almace. This was actually very, very helpful because Almace is the one that when you're sending 4 equip spells off of Isolde, you don't want to send Almace, and in fact, Almace is the one that you add back later off of Noble Arms Museum, and sometimes in the past I had a bit of trouble remembering that. So honestly, the game giving me a royal copy was a blessing, because it kind of like highlighted it, like, this is the one you don't send, this is the one you search later. And now I actually find it much easier to combo as a result. I think that is part of the reason why I found, or sometimes even still find, comboing with Infernoble Knights to be a little bit difficult, is because, to me, I don't know, all of these one of level 4 fire monsters, all of these one of, or sometimes 2 of, equip spells that are just swords, they all kind of like run together for me, and sometimes it's kind of hard to remember off the top of my head which one is which and which one does what. But of course, that's something that if I just played the deck more often, I'm sure would be, you know, something that comes a lot more naturally, right? So. Alright, I don't know actually if I have much else to say about the build itself. Yeah, I am playing quite a bit of non-engine here, including the Veilers, Triple Tax, and Imperms, but I think that even if you are playing a deck that goes well over 40 and has engine you still want to draw, it is still important to play cards like that, and important to make room for stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, otherwise I think the build, aside from the new stuff here, the Dempsey and the Gearblade, is more or less the same. So I'm going to break this list down card by card. We're going to start actually in solo mode so I can show you the kind of typical turn 1 combo line now that we have these new cards in the deck, and then we'll watch a few replays after that. So we're on 2 Effect Veiler, 1 Infernoble Knight Renaud, 1 Fire Flint Lady, 1 Infernoble Knight Ricardetto, 3 Maxi, 1 Neospatian Aqua Dolphin, 3 Ash Blossom and Joy Spring, 3 Neospace Connector, 1 Infernoble Knight Augier, 1 Infernoble Knight Oliver, 1 Infernoble Knight Magus, 1 Infernoble Knight Turpin, 3 Diabellstar the Black Witch. You can also cut this down to 2, you don't need 3 of her. We have 1 Immortal Phoenix Gearblade, 1 Reinforcement of the Army, 3 Heritage of the Chalice, 2 Triple Tactics Talent, 1 Original Sinful Spoils Snake Eye, 1 Living Fossil, 2 Infernoble Arms Durandal, 1 Infernoble Arms Almace, 1 Phoenix Gearblade, 1 Angelica's Angelic Ring, 3 Noble Arms Museum, 2 Called by the Grave, 1 Crossed Designator, 1 Wanted Seeker of Sinful Spoils, and then 2 Infinite Permanents for our 45 card main deck. For the extract, we're on 1 Infernoble Knight Captain Roland, 1 Angelica Princess of Noble Arms, 1 Infernoble Knight Emperor Charles, 1 Baron de Fleur, 1 Battle and Boxer King Dempsey, 1 Link Spider, 2 Emperor Charles the Great, 2 Isolde, 2 Tales of the Noble Knights, 1 Hita the Fire Charmer Ablaze, 1 Ferocious Flame Swordsman, 1 SP Little Knight, 1 Promethean Princess Bestower of Flames, and then 1 Appaloosa Bow of the Goddess. That's going to do it for our list. Let's go to that combo and then the games. Okay, so here we are in solo mode. I'm going to show you the bare basic combo line here. There are, of course, very many ways to combo in this deck, but I'll show you the simplest line with Neospace Connector, but really you can do this if you have any 2 warrior monsters on the field. So, and as always, as usual, I'm just going to pretend like these other cards in my hand don't exist for the sake of the combo line, except for Aqua Dolphin, because we will summon that. But off of Neospace Connector, right now, I'm going to lead by normal summoning that and activating the effect. Ideally, of course, you want to pull Aqua Dolphin from your deck, but here we opened it in the hand, so we'll just summon it from the hand. Now, if you open Neospace Connector in particular, you can optionally use Aqua Dolphin's effect right now to discard a card and then look at your opponent's hand, right? So, even though it's not very likely you'll be able to actually discard a card because your monsters have such low attack, you still get the free information, which I think most of the time is actually worth it. I pitched Diabell here because, again, we're just kind of pretending like she's not in hand. But if you opened Diabell in addition to Connector, you could even special Diabell first, then activate Aqua Dolphin to make sure that you're getting a guaranteed discard, but that also uses a lot of resources in hand. So, you know, as always, there's just going to be like pros and cons, right? But anyway, let's get into the real combo line here. We have 2 warrior monsters on the field, which means we can link them off to summon Isolde. Alright, we're going to activate her effect. Remember, the on-summon effect is the search one, and also remember that you can't summon or activate the effect of the monster that you add here. So whatever you add here is going to be something that's not part of our combo line. I usually just add Fire Flint Lady for follow-up plays most of the time, but here we'll just grab like another Neospace connector. It doesn't really matter. Alright, now we can use the Isolde. We're going to want to send 4 cards here. And as I touched upon in the deck profile, you're going to want to send the 4 except for All Mace. Or if you play more equipped spells, just make sure that you're not sending All Mace, because for this combo line, we are going to add it later. You do also want to make sure that, in particular, that you're sending Living Fossil, because we're going to add this from Grave to Hand earlier. Phoenix Gearblade, because this will add itself from Grave to Hand, and also Angelica's Angelic Ring, because we're gonna equip this from our graveyard to a monster during the end phase. So again, if you're wondering which 4 to send, just make sure you're not sending All Mace and that you are sending Living Fossil, Gearblade, Angelica's Ring. I'll throw in the extra Durandal here for the 4th one. Alright, now we're gonna special summon the Infernoble Knight's Augur from our deck. And we get to activate both the Augur effect as well as the Gearblade. I'm going to chain block with Augur Chainlink 1, Gearblade Chainlink 2, but honestly, if your opponent had like an Ash Blossom or something, they probably would have used it already, excuse me. Alright, so Gearblade adds back. And with Augur, we're going to want to send Infernoble Knight Turpin from our deck to the graveyard. We're now going to equip the Augur with the Gearblade that just came back. The reason that we're doing this is because of Infernoble Knight Turpin. I want to special summon this card from the graveyard, but I can only do that if I control a monster equipped with an equip card. That's why it's so important to send the Gearblade for this part of the combo line, so make sure you have an equip spell, so that way you can special summon the Turpin. The Turpin's other effect is to equip it, so make sure you're not accidentally activating that effect. Alright, now that we have 2 level 4 monsters, we can overlay them for our Battling Boxer King Dempsey. And once that is special summoned, we are going to activate the effect. The quick effect here, it just says your opponent can't target battle and boxing monsters. You don't have to worry about that one. But the on summon effect is going to add a Fire Warrior from deck to hand. We're going to want to add the Infernoble Knight Renaud to our hand here. Alright, now we can special summon the Renaud, and when Renaud is special summoned, we get to add back one of our equip spells or Fire Warrior monsters. In this case, I want to add back an equip spell. Particularly, I want to add back exactly Living Fossil. Alright, now we can make the Promethean Princess using our King Dempsey and Isolde. Alright, and from here we can use the Promethean Princess in order to bring back, basically we're just going to bring back one of our level 4s, because we're about to Synchro Summon for a 5, so I'll just get back Turpin here. Alright, now we're going to Synchro Summon for Angelica, using the Renaud and the Turpin. And once she is summoned, we'll go ahead and activate her effect in order to add the Noble Arms Museum from deck to hand. We can go ahead and activate the Noble Arms Museum and use the effect. As mentioned before, we are going to want to add the All Mace from our deck to our hand. We're going to use that later. Okay, now we want to summon out the Roland, so let's activate Turpin once again. This time we're going to use the Equip effect to target the Angelica. This will proc the Angelica effect to activate the quick effect, and you do want to activate this. Alright, now Angelica is going to send the Immortal Phoenix Gearblade to the graveyard, banish herself, and we can special summon the Roland. Turpin will fizzle out because it no longer has a card to equip to. Now we're going to Living Fossil, and I'm going to bring back the Turpin again. One thing that's very important to keep in mind is that the monster summoned off of Living Fossil is going to get banished, and we do need to use one of our equips from the graveyard later. So I've been using Turpin this whole time just to make that easier to keep track of, right? I've already used all of Turpin's effects, so now it doesn't matter if it gets banished once I bring it back. But that Augur effect, we're going to use the graveyard effect later, so make sure that stays in the graveyard. Alright, now we have a level 5 tuner. Level 4 non-tuner means we can sync for 9, go for the Infernoble Charles here. Alright, and now we can use the Roland effect to equip 2 Charles. I'm not going to activate this optional effect just yet, but I will do it a little bit later. More importantly, now that Charles is equipped, we can link it off for the Link 1 Emperor Charles. Alright, Emperor Charles' effect is going to activate. We will equip Synchro Charles from the graveyard. And now I want to activate the optional effect of Synchro Charles to destroy my own Promethean Princess. That way she's in the graveyard for, you know, being used for disruption later. Alright, we can activate the Noble Arms Museum. Gonna summon out the Synchro Charles in the Spell Trap. Don't activate the quick effect of Link 1 Charles here. That is a Spell Trap negate, and you definitely don't want that. Alright, now we're going to equip Synchro Charles with the All-Mace. And now that we once again have an equipped Charles, we can go for another Link 1. Once again, we're going to activate to equip Synchro Charles, and because our All-Mace went to the graveyard, we also get to add back a Fire Warrior monster from our grave to our hand, like that Immortal Phoenix Gearblade we sent earlier for Angelica. Okay, so we get that back, and once again we will equip Synchro Charles. Now, let's summon out our Immortal Phoenix Gearblade. We can just banish the Living Fossil, that's fine, we won't need it anymore. And I mentioned before that we want to use the effect of Augear to equip. We're going to do that now. You want to make sure that you're equipping to the Link 1 Charles that does not already have an equip card. That is very important, actually. Because the ability to negate a spell or trap is contingent on the monster being equipped. Alright, so both of our Charles are equipped. We are now good to move to the end phase, where we'll have a couple more effects activate. Let's start by using the Synchro Charles effect here. We can equip a spell from the graveyard, like Angelica's Angelic Ring. Do note that you can only equip this to a monster already equipped with an equip card. So if you only have one of the Charles that are equipped, the Link Charles, make sure you're activating the effect of the one that is equipped during the end phase, because if you don't, you won't be able to equip Angelica's Ring and you'll miss out on a free spell negation. So we're also going to equip a card from deck. We'll equip Exactly Magius. That way, if it gets into the graveyard, we can refill our deck and then also get a card draw on top of that. And then, of course, we'll summon out the Angelica's Angelic Ring. Alright, so there you have it. That is going to be our full turn 1 combo. As you can see, the end board is actually still the same as the old combo, but our deck and the combo line are now much more streamlined, thanks to Phoenix Gearblade and the Battle Unboxer King Dempsey. As I touched on the deck profile, we don't need Infernoble Arms Joyous for this combo line, which is why I decided not to play it. And we also don't even need to use Ricardetto, which used to be a very integral part of the combo line, the old way. I definitely would still play this. It's a very, very good card, and there are other combo lines that I know of that do involve Ricardetto, but I mainly just wanted to show this, again, kind of like main combo line here to establish what the deck does in general and how it combos now with these new additions. Now that we've done that, let's go ahead and take a look at our duels. Okay, so our first opponent for these replays is going to be on Pendulum. That's actually very undescriptive, but you can probably guess what I mean. It's the Zark Pendulum deck with all the new support. So this opening hand doesn't look very good on the surface, but this actually can get me to a full combo line potentially here. Oh, I went through that pretty quickly, but one thing that we were able to spot with the Aqua Dolphin here was a Retaliating Sea. So when your opponent activates a spell card that includes an effect that special summons a monster or specialist card from hand, if summoned this way, while this card is face up on the field, any card sent to the graveyard is banished instead. The opponent is pretty obviously playing this for Sekai. However, this does actually kind of affect this deck too. We're going to see that, and also how we're going to play around this later in the combo line here. But, yeah, going to start off with Aqua Dolphin Pitchy Imperm for some free info. But what else I can do is I can activate Noble Arms Museum, grab Durandal, equip Durandal to Aqua Dolphin, activate it to add Fire Flint Lady from deck to hand, special the Fire Flint Lady off her own effect. Now we have our 2 warrior monsters and we can do our full combo line. And we can still do the same combo line I just showed you too. Because the Noble Arms Museum is actually a soft once per turn, meaning it's once per copy on the field per turn. So if we activate a new Noble Arms Museum that will search off Angelica, then we still get to search again and then do the second effect as well, which is very, very nice. That's why you play 3 Noble Arms Museum, and that's also why you play multiple Durandal, is for this exact kind of situation here. Again, that hand on the surface probably looked really dead, but I saw Aqua Dolphin or any warrior, I saw Noble Arms Museum, I'm like, cool, that's a full combo line. So that's also why the Fire Flint Lady is so important, because Renaud specials if you control a fire warrior, but Fire Flint Lady specials if you control any warrior monster. So it's fine even if we have something like a Neospace Connector that got negated, or the Aqua Dolphin that we opened, right? We can still just go ahead and summon her. Alright, so yep, now we're making the Angelica. I haven't really been narrating what I'm doing in this combo line because, again, I'm doing literally the exact same thing that I showed you at the top of the video here. We just, again, started a little bit differently. I still added the Neospace Connector, although thinking about it, I probably should have added the Ricardetto for follow-up plays. Connector obviously just doesn't do anything. I think most of the time I add Connector just so I don't dead draw it later. But, okay, here's the Retaliating Sea coming down, because Living Fossil is going to be the first spell we're activating that does summon a monster card. So, as you saw when I Synchro Summoned for the Emperor Charles, that did banish everything, including the Roland. It's not ideal to banish the Roland, because this is a quick effect to equip, meaning that you could potentially get a pop during your opponent's turn. However, I'm fine giving that up, and I'm not going to have to play under Retaliating Sea for too long here. I'm going to equip Augier to the Charles instead of Roland, and then rather than using the Secret Charles effect to pop Promethean Princess like I usually do, I'm actually just going to go ahead and pop the Retaliating Sea so my stuff doesn't keep getting banished. Now, Retaliating Sea does have another effect. If this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you can add an Earth Insect monster. That's obviously going to be a Max C. I decided to just throw out the call by here. I kind of debated for a minute whether I wanted to negate this or wait for them to add Max C and activate it and then called by, but I decided this was probably just the best opportunity, because if by some weird happenstance I draw a Max C, now it won't be negated for my opponent's turn, although I don't think I'm going to do anything later that draws cards, so... Yeah, okay, we're summoning the Charles. Now, unfortunately, I can't exactly use Charles more than once per turn, so the only way for me to get Promethean Princess into the yard here is to summon the Ferocious Flame Swordsman. And actually, because of the way that both Promethean Princess and Charles Link arrows point, they're both straight down. Neither of them have arrows that point off to the side. And Princess pointed down to Charles, which pointed down. I wouldn't have even been able to summon the second Infernoble Charles Link one. So we do get to add that Gear Blade still, though. Or not Gear Blade, Gear Freed, rather. So yeah, the other thing that we missed out on is because we don't have another equip spell to equip before the end phase. Now we also don't get to equip the Angelica's Angelic Ring that we sent earlier. So the Retaliating Sea, although it wasn't on the board for very long, did noticeably affect our combo line. However, we did still end on a Spell Trap negate, as well as a Monster negate, and we have the Ash Blossom in hand. Also, looking at our opponent's hand, I know they don't have a complete Pendulum Scale. I know I went through it kind of quickly in the video. And I know they're going to be relying on using the, whatever Odd Eyes is like, pay 500 to search in order to get their plays going here, so... Oh, they actually started with Call By on the Promethean Princess. That makes sense. Not something I would fault them for. You'll notice I actually did not use the Charles to negate that, because it's kind of hard to tell. You have to kind of actually read the card here itself, but once per turn when a spell trap card or effect is activated, so that means this can negate and destroy Pendulums, cards placed in the Pendulum Zone too. And against a Pendulum deck, I think I value that negate a lot more highly than my Promethean Princess. So that's why I decided not to call by there. They're going to use the Odd Eyes Revolution, that's the one. Odd Eyes Revolution effect here to try to search. I'm going to use the Ash Blossom to stop that. One thing that I find against Pendulum decks is that if you can stop them from searching, they have a really hard time, like, naturally opening a Pendulum scale they can use. So, and yeah, as you can see, they go to search again with the Skull Crobat Joker, which I think they top deck. I don't remember seeing that in the hand. Maybe they did, I just wasn't paying attention. But as soon as we go to negate that with the Gear Freed, then they just concede, right? We actually know that they had 2 spells left, I think. Or no, they had the... what is it? The continuous spell card that lets them search was one of their last 2 cards, so I guess we know no matter what they can't make any kind of a Pendulum scale here. But yeah, against Pendulum decks, I really like to stop searches because, again, it forces them to have naturally opened a Pendulum scale, and it's actually pretty hard for a Pendulum deck to open a scale that lets them summon monsters and also the monsters they want to summon without doing any searching. So yeah, there is our first duel. Wanted to start off with a pretty strong showing there, where we do the turn 1 combo line. Got interrupted a little bit, but played through it and still stopped our opponent's plays. Let's take a look at some other games here. Alright, this duel is going to be against Kashtira Stun. I think I mentioned in a very recent video that I feel like anytime I see pure Kashtira anymore, it's alongside a bunch of stun cards. That is going to be the case here as well. Macros, D-Fissure, Necro Valley, I think even Crackdown was here. So here I'm going to lead with the Neospace Connector. Opponent's going to chain Max C. Certainly not ideal. And honestly, for this deck, I don't really have anything I like to pivot into for Max C. You kind of just have to stop a little bit early. However, here, I am still going to summon Diabell, giving my opponent an extra draw in the process. The reason is that I want to use Aqua Dolphin and hand rip them here. And unfortunately for me, this was so close to being a good hand rip, because Aqua Dolphin lets you discard an attack with a monster. Let's see. If you control a monster with attack greater than or equal. So because Diabell is 2500 attack, I can get rid of the Kashtira Unicorn, but they have 2. So it's like, no, not like this. We do get the Angelica's Angelic Ring here, but as we saw from our opponent's hand, they don't really need to resolve spells. No, their hand is definitely already good enough, and yeah. As soon as they added the Birth here, I'm just like, done. But while that was a shorter game, honestly, because I surrendered pretty quickly there, while that was a shorter game, I did want to show what I was talking about in the last duel about utilizing Aqua Dolphin, particularly in conjunction with the Diabell, in order to hand rip your opponent. And if my opponent is going to max C me on the Neospace Connector, like this person did here, then I think I'm definitely trying to hand rip them for sure. The main reason I surrendered so quickly here was because we know they have multiple Solemns, we know they have plays, like they have Theosis, so and especially in conjunction with the Birth, they can just get back the Unicorn that we sent earlier, that we destroyed, so there's no way they don't make a Rise Heart here, and as touched upon earlier, when your opponent is banishing all of your stuff, this is not the kind of deck that can play through something like that, unfortunately, so I do have one more game for us to see. Let's finish off with that one. Alright, our last opponent is on a more, like, quote-unquote traditional pure Kashtira deck. Not playing stun stuff, just, I guess, a lot of the things you would expect to see. I was a little surprised. I've never, like, not never. I've hardly run into Kashtira at all in the last couple of seasons, but the past couple of days, there's just a number of them on Ranked Ladder right now. But anyway, opponent's going to lead with D-Shifter. I'm going to normal summon Neospace Connector anyway, and then they Ash Blossom, which is actually 100% fine with me. Because now this will proc my triple attack, and also, like, I wasn't really going to combo anyway. Like, I mean, I probably could have ended on at least, like, SP Little Knight, but that's pretty much all I could have done anyway, so let's get in the hand rip here. We see Kashtira Unicorn, which I'm definitely putting back alongside Planet Pathfinder and Macro Cosmos. Now, Macro Cosmos, once again, not something we're trying to play under. This especially is bad. Like, D-Fissure, I guess at least our equip spells go to the graveyard, but Macro is going to banish absolutely everything. And I'm not going to lie, we're going to have a hard time playing through that. But the Planet Pathfinder, at least I know I can Imperm, so I'll just get rid of the Unicorn here. Set the Imperm. I'm like, I'll use Noble Arms Museum just cuz. But honestly, that macro is going to stop the Durandal from working as well as the other equip spells. Again, the D-Fissure, it wouldn't have been so bad, but macro is kind of a whole other beast. So, also the Diabell, I'm not going to be able to summon her either, which is not ideal. So again, I'm going to imperm the Pathfinder on summon. It still gets to battle over Connector, but now we can't find Raitsoth, so... They set 2 and decided to tribute the Pathfinder anyway, which I found a little bit odd. Like, I guess I understand the concept of wanting a clear field for if you top deck like an Ogre or something, but I feel like... Because you could use this effect on the next turn if I don't destroy the Pathfinder, right? Which, depending on the back rows, might actually be genuinely hard for... Well, the other back row that's not macro might be hard for me to do. I would have waited to see if it survives the turn, and then next turn potentially sacked Pathfinder for Raitsoth, but that's just me, I guess. Alright, so, yep, as soon as I activate Wanted, they're going to flip up macro. I actually did get really lucky by topping Rhoda here, though. So, I'm going to end up rotating, I believe, for a Neospace Connector, but I do want to look, because I really don't think there was much else better to get here. Yeah, I mean, none of the Infernoble Knights really do anything by themselves, especially with a macro up, so... Yeah, we just always go for Neospace Connector here because the Aqua Dolphin is still in deck. Alright, Connector for Dolphin. I'm going to add... Honestly, I'm mostly just using the Noble Arms Museum as deck fitting at this point. So I was really surprised when my opponent conceded here. You know, when I look at my extra deck and I think about my options in a situation like this, there's not really much I can do. I think aside from, like, just ending on SP Little Knight, I don't even think there's really a way for me to summon, like, a Baron de Fleur, or anything like that. So, I think more than anything else, this game shows a couple of things, but that one... it is worth persevering through disruption, and you really will never know when your opponent's going to surrender. That's why I'm generally a fan of not surrendering. This is something I've talked about quite a bit lately, but it's just another example of why not surrendering is the way to go. It's also like, if my opponent had chose not to surrender and had done what I like to do to people and say, you know, make them have the out, then I would have been struggling in that regard. But... I do think this is also a good showcasing of what to do if you're kind of low on plays or not even really able to do that much here. Just getting in the disruption and bodies that you can is sometimes enough to get you there. So, alright, that'll do it for these games and for this video. Let's move now to our outro. Hey everybody, Hexlex here. Just want to give you a huge thanks for watching all the way to the very end of the video. Believe it or not, that is actually one of the best ways that you can support the channel, is by watching the videos in their entirety. But there are many ways in which you can support the channel if you are so interested. The names that you're seeing on screen here, I gotta give an extra special thanks to, because these are people who have chosen to either become a member on YouTube, which if you're interested you can do as well via the join button next to the subscribe button down there, or have signed up over on Patreon and become members there. Link to that is going to be in the description below. Without the support that is being offered by, again, all the people that you're seeing on screen right here, I would not be able to take the time to dedicate to uploading daily YouTube videos. So thank you so very much. But there are also other ways you can support as well. Again, link to the description below. If you like my deck tracker that you'll see in a lot of my videos, the Untapped Companion, you can download that for free, and if you use my affiliate link down there, then that also goes a long way towards supporting the channel. That's, again, free. So is subscribing here on YouTube. That's also free and a huge way to support. You can also check out Twitch, once again linked in the description below. Following and subscribing over there will not only support as well, but also give you notifications of when I go live if you want to catch some of the live streams. But really, no matter how you choose to support, it all adds up, and it all definitely means the world. So thank you, each and every one of you. For now, this is Hexlex. I'm going to be signing out. But more than that, I'm hoping that you have a fantastic day.